Are we good? I think we're good. Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. We're good. So let's go. This is, you know what? I might just keep it like this. Maybe I was trying to do too much. Don't try to fix it if it's not broken. You know what I mean? Don't try to fix it if it's not broken. All right, so let's see. Plus, I kind of like the double screen. It's like, okay, we got one group here, one group here. It is what it is. Also, thanks. Let's do it. We want to line up. You know what? I'm really not in a rush tonight. That's one thing. Okay. Whoa. That was crazy. My throat got so cold there for a second. My throat got so cold. I started making a new mixture of just some different tinctures, like, in my witchy kitchen era. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. But I started making a new drink for myself recently, and that was cold at the back of the throat. That was cold. Okay. Thanks for loving my content. You know what? I love it too. Thanks for loving me as I do. Thanks for loving you. You know that's true. Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. Let's see. I feel like, you know what? Right now, I feel like a kid who's playing but is being asked to be like real serious. Does that make sense? It's like there's a serious parent around, but not but. There's a serious parent around, and I feel like the kid who's still trying to like have fun, but the parent's like trying to have kind of a serious conversation. It's uncomfortable. That's how I feel. Oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting. Uncomfortable. Let's see what else. What's really happening. A birth. Let's see. Not just your birth, the birth of many. Okay. The super playful mood, the kid in you. I know, I love it too. It's good. It's hard work that you can't see. Think about that for a second. Think about how much a mother goes through in labor that we don't get to experience. Only the mom experiences that. Only the mom experiences the hard work of a labor. Only the mom experiences the internal hard work of growing what is to be birthed, going through the birth, and all of the stuff that goes along with that process. There's a lot. There's a lot. There's like many layers of experiences that the mother receives from that experience that we're not ever going to know about. Ever. Literally ever. That's crazy. Literally, I haven't ever thought about it like that, but it's true. Literally ever. And that's every single mother in every single way on every single day. Think about how many babies are birthed every single day. Crazy. Wow. Thanks for that perspective. There was an unsolicited noise. So I didn't know where it was coming from. You know what? That kind of reminds me. Is that it? It might be. I had somebody over. When was it? Recently? And it happened in one of my videos earlier too. The one that I just posted on YouTube, the one about curses, how to curse. There was a noise that happened in the middle of it. And that happens for me all the time. Hold on, before we get back into this. That happens for me. It feels important that I talk about this for whatever reason. That happens to me all the time. Magick is around me all the time. Okay. Up, floating around, helping me work through things. Love Magick. Love you, Magick. And so sometimes there's like synchronicities with noise, or things will move, or, you're in a witch's house. Hello. So, yeah, sometimes things happen. And I had a friend over yesterday. I don't normally have people over to my space. Okay. I love my place. And also, I don't normally have people over to my space unless I'm on here on live stream. And then I have people in the space with me. That's just what it is. But I had somebody over yesterday, and there was something that happened. There was like a noise, something moved, something. I can't remember what the thing was that happened, but something happened and it stopped the conversation. And I was like, oh yeah, like you are in a witch's house. So yeah, Interesting that that would even come up right now. Magic is such a strange thing. I love magic. It's so interesting. And every once in a while, when it does come through, it really does alter the world around you. Talking about talking about the things that the mothers experience that no one else really gets to experience. It's like sometimes you have to experience the magic to understand that it's real. Sometimes you have to experience the magic to understand that it's real. And that has me thinking right now too. I'm kind of like getting off the cards and just kind of channeling, but I feel like that's where I need to be. So that's what I'm going to do. That's just what it is. It feels like there's certain kinds of because the North Node's in Pisces now, which has to do with our spiritual practices. And it feels like there's about to be a lot of different kinds of magic that a lot of different people are learning about that you didn't even really think were possible. I'm thinking about every single kind of magic I've already learned, and you're telling me, of course there's more. Of course there's more. Duh. Of course there's more. Okay. So what are we in store for? What is it really more of? More of what? It's more of magic, more of thanks for that. More of magic, more of interesting. Thank you. More of magic, more of your gifts, more of because I don't know about you guys, but I know about me. I'm gonna put these cards up. We're talking for a second. We got to sit and talk for a second. Okay, before we get into those, and it's tea time. You know. Mm-hmm. And it's tea time. You ordered a kitchen magic book? Listen, I love that. That's great, honestly. I love kitchen magic. I love being a kitchen witch. I love my kitchen. Okay. I'm looking at it right now. It's right behind where these screens are. It's right here. I love my kitchen. Love my kitchen. Love my kitchen. When it comes to different kinds of, that's what I was going to say. I don't know about you, but I know about me. And every single night, and I mean every single night, there's been something coming up around in my dreams, something coming up in my dreams, around my dreams, with my dreams. It's like spirit, not that spirit didn't talk to me in my dreams before. Sorry, I had to get you moved around. It's not that spirit didn't talk to me before in my dreams, but it's different now. Now that it's like the minute the North Node moved into Pisces, in my dreams, it's several different dreams every single night, which is more than I'm used to. I'm grateful for it. And also, it's more than I'm used to. And every single dream has like a really important thing in it. Every single one of them. Every single one. Every single one. And normally for me, when I'm getting dreams, it's like long time in the future prophecy stuff. Sometimes I get stuff where it's like, if I have a day of prophecy, like the dream is going to tell me about an entire day, it's usually like a week in advance, or like it's like, sometime it's like a couple weeks before it actually happens. And then I just gotta kind of sit around and wait and look for the signs. Okay, well, this is kicked into gear now. Let me pay attention. But that's not the case with the dreams I've been having recently. The dreams I've been having recently, it's like, okay, you better get up the next day and understand that that dream told you about everything that's going to happen here and now, or it's telling you about what just happened to me. So recently that's been different. I'm sure we're gonna have more than come in because it was like enemy. It was like the door of magic just kind of got like kicked open. That's what it feels like. Yeah, it's been on overdrive. Yeah, it feels so different. It feels so different, and it feels like there's, how do I say this? Somebody was talking about a dream. I don't remember who it was, and I won't share it too in depth. But somebody was talking about a dream about like people just kind of laying low with magic first, like not laying low. How do I explain it? Because I want to be able to do justice to that dream, but at the same time conceal what doesn't need to be said. So let me think about it for a second. Basically, like magical practices going against one another, and there was a magical practice of a lot of different people going over at one time, while there was other practitioners who were kind of just laying low, knowing that it didn't need to, like, this was gonna blow over at some point. Blow over, blow over. It's gonna blow over at some point, and it wasn't gonna be over them anymore. So it's like just laying low, being here, sitting still, being chill, allowing yourself to like really, really understand the will, because what it feels like is interesting. The vision I'm getting right now is like practitioners. Let's like sit and sharpen your tools. Sit and sharpen your tools. That's really what's going on. Sit and I laugh, but I feel real serious about it too. Sit and sharpen your tools. Sharpen your tools. Sharpen your tools. Sharpen your tools. Let's talk about the difference between a rule and a fool and a tool. This is a fundamental that I have in my practice because I feel like it's important to bring this up. The rule and the fool, the rule and the fool and the tool. The rule is needed by the fool. The fool, inexperienced, innocent, doesn't know anything, doesn't know any better. We've all been a fool at one point. Hello, we were all kids, we were all babies, walking into new areas and new eras of your life too. Some new jobs, new situations, new groups of people. Sometimes we're fools then too. That's just what it is. We don't know anything, we don't know any better, and we have innocence to us. Same thing happens with magic. Sometimes we don't know anything, we don't know any better. A fool. Sometimes we're fools, okay? Doesn't know anything, doesn't know anything, and doesn't know any better. Innocent, not ignorant. There's a difference. Innocent, not ignorant. There's a very distinct and clear separation and discernment between the two of those things. So for a fool, innocent, doesn't know anything, doesn't know any better. You need a rule. Okay, kid, don't put your hand on the hot stove. Kid doesn't know why. Okay. Okay, kid, don't put your hand on the hot stove. You follow the rule and you follow the rule and you follow the rule because you're a fool. Then one day you realize, wait a minute, it's cold. Maybe, maybe the power went out, or maybe there is whatever. Maybe the only source of heat is the stove. Let me go and put my hands over it then. Let me go and put my hand because that's the only thing so eventually to be able to protect oneself, direct oneself, understand more about the world, the fool has to break the rule. Then it becomes a tool because then if I need to put my hand on the hot stove, think about how many times you pick something up with your fingers on the hot stove to get it flipped or to get a grip on it instead of using like a fork or a spatula or whatever, a spoon, whatever you're using, right? So the tools in the kitchen. Speaking of kitchen magic. So I love kitchen magic. So eventually you break the rule. Eventually you have to break the rule. When it comes to sharpening the tools, it's like you've already like made a mistake. You already put your hand on the hot stove. You already know that there was a rule. You turned it to a tool. Now you have a tool. The tools that you have in your practice that have crossed you, sharpen them. Sharpen them and sharpen them. Get wittier, get grittier if you need to. Get wittier, get grittier. That's one of the things that Spirit has been having me work in recently is like your awareness. For me, this discern for yourself how you need to see this because this has been like a very personal thing that's been coming up. So again, yeah, discernment. And also it feels like I need to share it. So I'm going to. Your awareness, you need to be more aware. Your awareness, you need to be even more aware. You need to be even more aware. Even the awareness that you're working in now is going to look different 2 months from now. You need to be even more aware. You need to be even more aware, even more aware. And so there's a process right now of me strengthening my head. I've made a video about that on TikTok recently about getting your head together. Get your head together. If I could give you one piece of advice for the year, get your head together. So right now, Spirit. And actually, that's interesting because I talked to somebody else recently, which I think they're around, but we're going to let it be as it is. Getting the head up, like raising the head up. And that's what's happening with me too. How curious, how interesting. Raising the head up. That happens with Spirit occasionally. It's like, you got to get your head up. You got to get your head up. Got to get your head up because you got to be thinking stronger. That's one of the fundamentals in the Norse space. One of the fundamentals is that there's some magical, this is from my understanding from what the research that I've done and what the spirits have talked to me about. There's some magic that can't be practiced if you don't have a strong head. If the stronger the head that you have, the more direct and impactful that magic will be. And so that's for me in my Norse fundamentals, and for anybody else who might be working in that or something similar or needs the reflection of the space. Beautiful. Embrace. Okay. So when it comes to, thank you, Spirit. When it comes to having a strong head in your practice, there's a lot of different things that can be practiced to have a strong head. Awareness, one of them. Dream recalling, another one of them. Meditation practices, that's another one. It really depends on kind of what there's so many different directions that it could go in. And it's like also what magic are you practicing that already could be elevated by bringing it into mental spaces or mental places? Because we're about to have Neptune go into Aries. We're about to have Saturn go into Aries. Venus is in Aries now, is about to retrograde in Aries. And Venus retrogrades are kind of harsh sometimes. So, and Aries, there's a lot of different things about Aries. A lot of different things about Aries that we're probably not going to get into on the full level. And also, it rules the head. It rules the head. It rules that beautiful, beautiful brain of yours, you know? It rules the head. So one of my favorite rules, LOL, it's a pretty good rule. It's true. But Aries rules the head, not that rule. I think you're talking about the rule, the fool, the tool. That one's one of my favorite rules too. I don't know if I am catching that correctly, but yeah. Yeah. Aries rules the head. And so we have Saturn, the father, the order, the structure, the time moving into our head. Yeah, get your head together. We also have Neptune, where the North Node is going to be ruled by Pisces, which is going to be ruled by the Neptune in Aries. So our spiritual practices are about to be ruled by our head. And the North Node being in Pisces, this is the crazy part, I feel, is what it is. The North Node being in Pisces is going to be ruled by a Neptune that's in Aries. So our spiritual practices being ruled by our head. That North Node is a steep incline elevation. So the gifts of the mind are about to be like lifted off, shifted up. We've had elevation in the mind for the previous year and a half when it comes to Aries because the North Node was in Aries. But now it's not just going to be like a physically, how do I explain this? Physically grounded all the time. Discern for yourself because we are human. We need to be grounded on the earth and we can't, get out of that. Here we are. And it is. And also, there's going to be some things that start to come through where sometimes the spirits that would come through to really like sit with you in your head, they need you to ground them. And there's not really any other way for them to be here. Sometimes, not all the time, but on, every once in a while. So it's like being really specific about what you're letting into your mind. Why are you letting it into your mind? I know one of the things that Spirit's been having me do since the North Node moved into Pisces is just sitting in a lot of silence. I've been moving in a lot of silence. Normally I'm listening to a lot of music and I'm listening to a lot of, but recently Spirit is like, you have to stop. You have to stop. You have to stop. I don't even want to listen to music anymore, which is super, or if I'm listening to music, I'm like, can I listen to music that doesn't have like words in it? I don't want to listen to people talk right now. I just need to sit and I need to talk to Spirit. I just need to sit and I need to talk to Spirit. I need to sit and I need to talk to this God or that God or the gods that are around me. Let me be more specific. I don't need to talk to just any God, but the gods that are around me in my practice. So it's like that's shifted recently too. My altar practice has shifted recently. Let's go back to the head though, if that feels important. That when it comes to altering the mind, interesting that those will cross over. The South Node being in Virgo and the North Node being in Pisces together, that with the Neptune moving into Aries, oh my goodness, what we do to the body is going to change our head. With your practices, what you wear on the body is going to start to change your head. This is the South Node in Virgo, more of it. Okay, this is going to be how that practice of the mind is more grounded. What you wear on your body is going to change your head. Your jewelry, your clothes, the lotions, the oils, the makeup, the whatever it is. Okay, the way that you treat your body, that's going to change your head. Do you love your body? Do you look at your body in the mirror and like say, I love you and I'm so grateful to have this body? That's a hard practice to upkeep sometimes, especially when you've been told by society and the world that that's not who you are, even if it is who you are. Okay? Love yourself. I love you too. That's true. Are you able to feed your body what it needs? Are you intuitively eating? Or do you have yourself on like a regimen, on like a, how are you feeling about it? I know my diet has changed recently in the previous months. And then what you eat is going to change your head. So what you eat's changing your head, how you're working out, that's changing your head. What you wear, that's changing your head. So that's going to be the easier part of easier being grounded on the earth. It's a human experience. South Node makes it way less difficult. So if you're ever feeling you're a little bit way too high up there in the mind, or like it's hard to find some stuff up there in the mind, or it's a little bit like, whoop, I don't know where I am, a little bit lost in the sauce up in the mind, okay? Bring it back down to the ground. What's in the physical? What's around? Clothing, okay? Is there stuff on the desk that's making my head foggy for whatever reason? Is there stuff that's in the room that's making my head foggy for whatever reason? What did I eat today? Am I taking my vitamins? Am I making sure I'm speaking affirmations over myself in my head to keep me grounded how I need to be grounded so that I can be surrounded by love in my mind, How am I treating myself when it comes to the physical world? Because that's going to alter how we think in the coming next couple of years. The other crazy thing that we have coming up that I haven't really gotten to yet, but apparently we're going to talk about it now, is we have March 29th, an eclipse happening in Aries. And then that's when Neptune, it's like less than 24 hours. That's when Neptune moves into, I'm pretty sure I don't want to look at it right now. It's around 24 hours is when Neptune moves into Aries in that March 30th and that next day. And it's going to be conjunct with the Mercury retrograde. And now, if you remember the previous Aries eclipse, April 8th of 2024, oh, weird. Thanks, time. April 8th of 2024. I can't believe it's 2025 because we're here. And also, like, whoa, hello. So April 8th of 2024, there was a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. All right. For everybody that remembers that day, Mercury retrograde was happening in Aries then too. So now we have this is such a like crazy eclipse, monumentous. That's what it feels like. Because I know for me, that April 8th Aries eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse that happened in Aries, I still have my notes from that day. I wrote like 7 pages of notes from that day, just scribbling, scribbling, scribbling. It was like this massive integration of information in my brain that I had to get out onto paper. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And the wisdom that was coming through was a lot. It was dense, a pretense for it to have been dense. So now, because Mercury retrograde in Aries, I'm pretty sure it was the only retrograde that was happening at the time. I'm fairly certain everything else at the time was direct. And I was telling people around that eclipse, write it down, remember. And because what happens with retrogrades, one of the things that happens with retrogrades is they're binding. So anything that happens in a retrograde, we're forced to return to it at some point. So when Mercury is retrograde, the communication and the words that we're speaking, talking, receiving, hearing, listening, writing down, we're forced to return to it. So the information that was coming to you and the conversations you were having and anything that was being communicated on that April 8th new moon solar eclipse in 2024 in Aries, what a long title, but it is. And it is a long title. Anything that was we're being forced to return to it in the upcoming new moon solar eclipse in Aries on March 29th. And Neptune's moving into Aries within that time frame while the moon is still in Aries, I'm fairly certain. And we have Mercury retrograde conjunct with Neptune. So we're going to have it's like the spiritual secrets of why we were receiving that wisdom unveiled to us. The spiritual understanding of why we were receiving those secrets on April 8th, 2024 unveiled to us. We're going to understand, and it's going to be right in the middle of the spirit and the mind, because that conjunction of Neptune and Mercury retrograde happens it's like 29, it's over 29 and a half degrees. So it's like basically at the edge of Aries and Pisces is where Neptune and Mercury retrograde are going to be conjunct the day that the eclipse is going on within their time period, their time frame. Plus, we still have Chiron in Aries, which is like anything that's happening up here is meant to heal us and give us the superpowers of healing, revealing and feeling. Sometimes we have to get triggered mentally so that we can understand some more things. That's making me angry. I don't want to think about that. Lean into it. Understand it, heal it, feel it, reveal it, move on. Gain the wisdom. Return to it. You got it. Return to it. You got it. And then luckily, though, one of the things that's really good and supportive of this not being super difficult in the coming months is that we have the dark moon and Chiron are finally moving out of their dense opposition, and that's the shadows of the masculine and the shadows of the feminine. So we're not last year in 2024 in the previous year, not the last year, in the previous year, direction, that's true, thank you. In the previous year in 2024, it was a lot of masculine, feminine, shadow oppositions. There was this big conversation that was going on, and it was ruling kind of everything else that was happening, even though it was this indirect, very shadowed thing that was happening. It's very kind of stressful, and it was just a lot. It was just a lot. So dramatic, okay? Dramatic. It was thematic, it was on theme, and also kind of dramatic. It was a lot. So They're finally moving out of that completely direct opposition. We have the dark moon moving into Scorpio come the next eclipse season. It's like in between the eclipses, which is gonna switch some things up. Yeah, we're not gonna get too far into that. That's for another time. And also, it's gonna switch some things up in the shadows of the feminine. To support also, we have Venus that is gonna be in retrograde over the eclipse season. So Venus doesn't retrograde except for every like year and a half. Mars is gonna be out of its retrograde. Jupiter will be out of its retrograde. Uranus will be out of its retrograde. Who else? Pluto's not gonna be in retrograde. Is there anything else that's going on? I think it's just Venus and Mercury that are going to be in retrograde for that eclipse season. And Venus retrograde, remember I said how things are binding? So the feminine energies, think about everything it's binding and it's also harvest at the same time. It's like everything you've been working on for the previous year and a half, it will come to ground. There's some things for the feminine and the Venusian, the Venus, second house, seventh house, Libra, Taurus, Venus, okay? That's gonna be grounding during eclipse season, which honestly to me is kind of wild because it's like, think about everything you've done. It was September of 2023, okay? Think about everything you've done, Venusian energy since 2023. I know for me, that's a big plate. That's a big, we can't, it's like multiple courses, full spread meal, okay? For me, at least. There's a lot of work I've been doing since then. My life looks drastically different. So there's things coming to ground, while at the same time, we're binding up our next cycle of Venusian energy. So it's like we're grounding the previous cycle, and simultaneously, it's like we're being offered the tools, we're being offered the finalities. What are we going to do with the finalities? What are we going to do with the tools? What are we going to do with it? That binds up the next year and a half cycle of what we're going to be going through with Venus and Venusian energy. So when it comes to, thank you, Spirit. Interesting, understood. Venus retrograde can be hard a little bit just because it's also associated with the 40 days and 40 nights of drought. So sometimes you don't receive anything and you kind of got to figure it out. It just depends on what you've been working, what you've been doing, how Venus has been really treating you. It is, it is, it is, it is, it is, it is. But that Venus retrograde during that eclipse season is like for the feminine workers, and that means feminine, I am in the position with myself that we all have a feminine and masculine, within us to work and groove and move. So the feminine, however you sit with Venus, the feminine, archetypes, the mothers, however you sit with that, okay? However that works for you. If you're someone who's really practicing around that, okay, if you're really practicing around that, there's some things that are going to come through when that Venus starts to retrograde. They're only for you, first of all. Look at the work you've been doing. Look at the work you've been doing. They're only for you. Understood. Understood. They're only for understood. Interesting. Got it. They're understood. Thank you. Yes. They're only for you. I really had to learn that one. They're only for you. And simultaneously, when they're coming through, I keep seeing this vision. I've been seeing this vision for this upcoming Venus retrograde. I said it. If you listen to the most recent podcast episode with Venus preparing for Venus retrograde, I said it in there too. So if you listen to that, I'm going to repeat myself. And also for people who didn't hear it, I'm going to say it again. So I keep having this vision come through of Venus retrograde. Like when it's over, I just see this feminine archetype coming out of this dirt dust cloud, covered in dirt, covered in soot, covered in whatever they're covered in that is like from the cloud of dust and dirt that they've been through. Sword in their hand, okay? Clawed their way back up to wherever it is. And I see these like masculine figures. It's like this castle sort of energy, very like Renaissance fairy sort of energetic space is this feeling that I have around it. And I see these, like, there's like a couple of guys just like standing there looking at the cloud of dust, thinking that the battle's over and that everything is done. They're just standing there looking at it, and like there's fallen soldiers or however the rest, like I can't see anything else. I just know that there's a lot of destruction that happened. Okay. So a lot of destruction that happened. And there's these two guys just standing there kind of being like, it's really over. It's really over. And I see them, this feminine energy come out of the cloud of dust and dirt and soot, whatever it was, okay, that you've been working through and walking through. I see them coming out of this just like crazy eyes, sword out, and is like not done yet. Is not done yet. Is not done yet in the sense of like, I don't know what happens between the feminine and the masculine at that point. It's I can't really see that. I don't really know what happens beyond that space. And that's the vision I've been getting. I don't think I mentioned the masculine in the Venus preparation episode on the podcast recently. I'm pretty sure I didn't. And that's the vision that I've been having for this is like the masculine doesn't recognize that the feminine is still coming up, but the feminine's gonna make it to the recovery of ground. That's the word that spirit's been giving me. It's like the feminine is recovering ground, recovering ground. We're recovering ground in the feminine, recovering the ground. And the dust cloud, all this dirt and dust, and just like, you can't really see too much, maybe blindness that you're walking through. We're talking about blindness from earlier. It's to protect you. What do you think those dudes who are standing there would do if they could see you walking through that dirt dust cloud, clawing your way back up? They would see you and think, oh, she's tired. Let me just go take care of her now, probably. But if you get up closer to them, what's really going to happen at that point? Are you going to call truce? Is it going to be done? They're really the only ones left from whatever was going on. Are you going to call a truce? Is it going to be done? Are you going to be able to have some fun? You're going to sit and drink some ale together, You're going to have some clever weather. Feminine's got to go get cleaned up. Just went through a dirt cloud, that feminine recovery of ground. It's also like honors. Like if I see also like whoever those men are going to be like, oh, well, congratulations. Here's some extra coin. Thanks for fighting with us, or thanks for fighting for us. Fighting for us, fighting with us, fighting around us, fighting on our team. It's like, it doesn't feel like it's so enemy based, but the feminine definitely is like, I just still see like the crazy eyes at the feminine and is very like, I'm ready for more. Like if you needed me to go again, I could go, but it's time to slow down. It's time to take it a little bit slower. So I keep seeing that for the Venus retrograde. It's like the end of it. I don't know exactly what. ALS and noggin, LOL. I had to look it up earlier. The video about the noggin. Dude, ridiculous. I can't believe that I was editing. It's like right at the beginning of the How to Curse video. I say something about the noggin and how sometimes people just don't have anything going on in their noggin. And it's like very obviously they're like motivated by ancestors that may not be so healthy. I said it on a TikTok video too. I know I'm repeating myself if you've already seen it. I can't believe that I talk like that. The noggin, so ridiculous. The noggin. Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, thanks. I feel great too today, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Oh goodness. Dakota asked on YouTube, do you have any suggestions for magic workings that would be good for the upcoming full moon in Leo? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, because I did a reading. It was like a couple days ago, I think. It was a couple days ago. I don't know exactly when it was, but it was one of my live stream readings. And the full moon in Leo came up. The full moon, because when is that? It's February 8th right now. It's on the 11th, right? 12th? When is it? Hold on. The 12th? Yeah. Also, the Sun and Mercury are conjunct currently. I don't know if they're exact conjunct, but they're like near conjunct. Shout out to that. Yeah, the 12th. So we've got what, like 4 days? It's like 4 days. 4 days until the full moon in Leo. The one, ooh, unpredictable, unscriptable. Something's gonna happen that we're not gonna be able to look at our card decks and say, I have the feeling this is gonna be. No, I have a feeling this is going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen is really the truth of it. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. Because if we go and look at, hold on, let me pull up the chart for the full moon. It's going to be a crazy full moon. I was looking at the chart for the full moon. I was looking at the chart for the full moon and what, who, how, when, where, why. Let me maybe not ask so many questions. Okay. Spirit's having me tighten up my tongue recently. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. Okay, let's look at, let me get into more like exactness. Because it's going to be the sun and the moon. We got 19. Let me get to 23. Give me the 23. About there. Good, good. That's pretty Let's go just one more. Let's go. I'm gonna try to get it as exact as possible. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. You know what? Maybe like another hour. Is that? Yeah. eh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this full moon in Leo, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is a crazy, 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 crazy full moon. Leo, let's break it down. Leo's ruled by the sun, right? Leo's ruled by the sun. The sun is going to be in Aquarius. Aquarius also is going to have Mercury and Pluto in it at the same time. So we have normally like full moons, the moon and the sun are in opposition to each other. That's part of the reason there's a lot of energy. That's part of the reason it like rules over the chart. Oppositions rule our charts. Okay. So we have a full moon ruling the chart as it is, as it needs to be. Leo ruled by the sun, that's in Aquarius. So we have a new moon that's ruled by Aquarius. That was our new moon, was in Aquarius. Okay, this is why it's a little crazy. This is why I'm bringing this opposition up because they're normally in opposition, but the new moon was in Aquarius. Okay, new moon being in Aquarius, and then we have the full moon in Leo, ruled by the sun in Aquarius. So really, the full moon is ruled by Aquarius, a double through the screen of Leo, which is like the bright light, being ourself. Okay, our heart letting our hearts open, being in joy, joyful also. That's true. Interesting. Uranus, which rules Aquarius, this is the other crazy part of this. So, that by itself, the fact that the new moon was in Aquarius, the fact that new moon was in Aquarius, and then we had the full moon in Leo, also ruled by the Aquarius sun. That's wild. Then the other part of this is that Uranus is going to be squaring both the moon and the sun, and Uranus is one of the rulers of Aquarius. Squares ground things. And it's Uranus, which is unpredictability. It's the order that comes before. It's something that was probably prophesized to you and maybe you forgot about it. It's something that was given to you and you're like, well, I don't know what that's going to be. I have no idea how that's going to show up. I have no clue. I don't know. And it's in a square, so it's grounding it. Oh my gosh. So no, you asked if I have a working or like something. Sit and be grateful. That's the work. Sit and be grateful, or go do whatever you're gonna do and just be grateful. Just be grateful because Uranus is also the like, how do I explain this? It's the primordial beings and the primordial mothers. It's the primal, it's the animalistic, which means that there could be things of natural energy that are going on. So it could be, it really does be like that sometimes, you know. Oh my goodness. It could be, how do I explain this? Oh my gosh, it was 37:37 when I looked at the clock. Cute, love that. Let me get back to so serious. So serious. So when we get to that full moon, the other okay, so let's get into a couple more layers of it because there's a couple more layers of that full moon that I feel like would be beneficial to yeah, you're welcome. Thank you too. I feel like there's a couple other layers of it that would be beneficial to understand because Uranus is in Taurus, okay? So what's grounding? We're grounding unpredictability. It's going to be happening through Taurus, which is growth, okay? And that growth is going to be ruled by the Venus that's in Aries. So it's head, it's the mind. So pay attention for the next several days. Pay attention to your mind. What is your mind activating? Because that's going to tell you about the direction that you're going in to receive this unpredictability. What the unpredictableness that's grounding, what you're receiving in your mind. It could be new ideas, it could be thoughts of affirmations. One of the things that Spirit's been having me do for days and days and days and days and days, probably like maybe like a week now. I don't know. It's been a while. Changing up my style. Spirit every day has been having me speak elevation over myself, over the ancestors, over other people. It's like speak elevation, speak the elevation, create the elevation, bring the elevation, maybe elevate it up and out of this position that's been causing me harm. Maybe elevated up and out of this position that whatever it is. So the Spirit's been having me work in a very specific direction on an intentional level. And I'm kind of realizing right now that that's because we have this unpredictable energy that's coming through. So for me, in that clarity, I feel like probably what grounds for me is going to be of a elevation. I don't know exactly what it'll be, but that sounds right, feels right. And then On top of this, to make this an even bigger, like, holy cow, whoa, okay, that Venus in Aries, again, where is your head direction going and what are you receiving because of that, is ruled by a Mars retrograde that's in Cancer, which is again ruled by the moon. So it just goes back into the circle and the cycle of everything being unpredictable and coming into the bright light joy space of being ourselves. It feels like, you know what it feels like? This is what I'm going to say about it. It feels like there's something unpredictable that you've been asking for, waiting for, wishing for, wanting for a long time. You know what? One of the things that Spirit's been telling me, I'm going to just sit like this for a second. It feels like it's necessary. One of the things that Spirit's been telling me, and the spirits on my team also specifically, they've been telling me for like, when did this start? 2 years? 3 years ago? Was it 3 years ago? Well, by golly, if it was 3 years ago, it was a while ago. But was it 3 years ago? It was 3 years ago. That's a long time. 3 years ago. They were telling me 3 years ago, apparently, is when it started. Wish wisely, some things come disguisedly. Practice wisely, some things come disguisedly. I think I put it in my blog earlier, but I wrote it down and I was like, this is coming back. Interesting. And it's been periodically coming back up. And I know for me, there was a certain specific thing in my private practice that came about that had to do with that, wish wisely, practice wisely, some things come disguisedly. So it's like something very bright and apparent is going to happen. Bright and apparent's going to happen. Something very bright and apparent's going to happen. Something very bright and apparent's going to happen. That's unpredictable, but we've been working for it for a while. We've been waiting because the other ruler, we have to remember, okay, the other ruler of Aquarius is Saturn. So whatever it is that's grounding, that's unpredictable for you, because the Leo is the self, right? Part of it is the self. What's unpredictable that's grounding for you, you've had to work spiritually really hard for it. Saturn's in Pisces right now. You've had to work spiritually really, really hard to receive whatever this thing is. Spiritually, you've had to have a lot of discipline. You've had to have a lot of spiritual discipline. You've had to have discipline within transitions, however those transitions have been happening for you. You've had to have discipline within really every area of your life. Pisces is the accumulation of everything else that comes before it. So having really, really strength and discipline, and then wherever Pisces is in your chart, because I'm looking at myself right now, remembering where Pisces is in my chart, saying, yeah, you're right. I have had to be disciplined in that area. So looking at that house, you could look at your Neptune, wherever that discipline is that you've been in, because Saturn entered Pisces March of 2023. Yep, March of 2023. So wherever it is that you've been disciplined, then it could have been before then. It could have been like right around that. For me, I made specific agreements with myself of what I was going to do while Saturn was in Pisces, because I knew that my spiritual, I was going to say my spiritual retrograde, interesting verbiage, spiritual retrograde, my Saturn return. I'm curious to understand that, and I think I do on a level, and it's 9:09 on the clock. Okay, we can walk with that. That's fine. Spiritual retrograde, yeah, because the Saturn return is like you're making one full circle of your life, so you do have to return to where you started so that you can end the circle, because you're being birthed again within the Saturn energy. Saturn's the father. It's like the first time loop of your life makes a close, and then you start over again. The Saturn return starts at around the time of conception, at astrologically the same degree. It's like around the same degree that you would have been conceived at when the parents of you were coming together. Yeah. So that's where the Saturn return starts. So it's like literally like you're conceiving a new life for yourself, while simultaneously you have to go back to the origins to make sure that everything is like corrected and redirected how you need it to be, so that you can have the level of hierarchy that you're really asking for the next 30 years. Saturn return. So it's funny that I call it the spiritual retrograde. Let's go back, bind some stuff up. It's time to bind and harvest. That's really the energy I've been in with that. But so that's the other part, is like spiritual of the full moon that's coming up. Spiritual discipline, the spiritual disciplines you've been in, plus the North Node being in Pisces with Saturn and with Neptune. Anything that you're receiving on that full moon is meant to elevate you. even if it's a little bit triggering, because we got Chiron in Aries as well. So even if it's a little bit triggering, anything that is received is meant to bring in elevation in the spiritual practice. It's meant to bring in elevation in the spiritual practice. It's meant to bring in elevation within, how do I explain it? Just your transitions. Again, it's like anything in your life that you've been working for, especially with that Pisces energy. You know, this is our year, Pisces. It's so good. So good. Yeah, it'll be a good full moon. And honestly, I think this full moon, because we're in Aquarius season, there's a lot of Aquarius stuff going on, unpredictable, shake it up, break it up, get it moving on up, lift it up, gift it up, shift it up. A lot of up stuff. That's the Pisces. Pisces energy has to do with the rain cycle sometimes. So it's like if we're shifting up and lifting up, things are going to ground eventually from what we're doing right now with that North Node energy. But part of what I think is going to be interesting is because Pluto's in Aquarius with this moon cycle, Pluto retrograde. Spirit told me recently that we're just kind of waiting on something to ground. We're waiting on something to come around. We're waiting on something to be profound as a society, as our collectives, as the world, everybody. Okay. We're waiting on something. And the Spirit told me this in a reading. It's a Pluto and Aquarius reading. If you want to go back and listen to the whole thing on my YouTube, it was recorded November 18th or 19th of 2024. It was the day before Pluto went into Aquarius. The main thing I remember from it is that there's something bouncing around really high up in the sky. It's bouncing back and forth and bouncing back and forth. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, but it's going to ground. And when it grounds, it's going to splat. It's going to land flat and it's going to be here. And what we're doing now until that happens is we're like in the process of creating whatever that thing is that's grounding. We have a like predetermined circumstance because of how we entered Pluto into Aquarius. And Aquarius is really creative. There's a lot of creative energy. So I think that what's happening in this new moon cycle and the sun cycle is going to help to show us what that big thing is that's grounding. And more than likely, that's going to start to happen when Pluto retrogrades. Spirit told me that a couple weeks ago. Probably going to start to happen when Pluto retrogrades. Because again, retrogrades are what? Binding and harvesting. So that's two of the fundamentals. There's some other things with retrogrades, and also they're binding and they're harvesting. So if we're starting to harvest stuff since Pluto's been in Aquarius, when Pluto retrogrades, it makes sense that something would come to the ground. Oh, that was like way louder than I expected. Understood. Thank you for that lesson and message. Yeah. That was genuine surprise. I did not do that on purpose. Oh my goodness. that was a little shocking. I did not mean to have such a like heavy hand about that, but it is what it is. Okay. Because the other sort of visual that I got for Pluto being in Aquarius is Uranus is the parent of Saturn. Okay. The being that birthed Saturn is Uranus. So Saturn and Uranus being the rulers of Aquarius, they're coming together. It's the grandparent and the parent. The grandparent and the father, the parent, are coming together to talk about some stuff. And they've kicked Pluto, the kid, out into the yard for a little bit. Go play outside, kid. We have adult things to take care of. We have adult things to do. So they've been watching, though, from the window. Us kids, they've been watching from the window. Uranus and Saturn have been watching from the window. What are the kids really going to do? What are the kids really going to brew? What are the kids really making with their time that we've given to them? They're out here in the world. They're doing these things. Maybe they went off to their friend's house. Maybe they're making a sandcastle in the yard. Maybe they're, building a swing set. I don't know what they're doing, but we gave the kids free time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Go out there and go do what you're going to do. Go out there and go do what you're going to do. And then eventually the kids, we're getting called back into the house. Getting called back in. We're getting called back in. Okay. We're getting called back in. And when we get called back in, if Saturn, and this is what the reading that I did back then told me, if Saturn and Uranus have nothing to do with you and they're like, yeah, just welcome back in. Congratulations. You've learned the lessons you needed to learn. Pluto and Capricorn, there's nothing else you need to earn. That's it. Easy. Nothing changes. Easy. Nothing hurts. Easy. Okay. But if you come back into the house, if you come back into the house with Saturn and Uranus, when you get called back in and all of a sudden Saturn's sitting you down to have a talk about some lessons, or Uranus, the grandparent, is trying to come in and maybe correct some things or talk about some things, however it might happen, there's some extra work that needs to be done. Something else that Spirit told me about this year is not everything is meant to be fun. There's going to be more sun and there's going to be more run. And yes, there is going to be more fun. We still got to get things done, though. We still got to get things done. We still have to be disciplined. We still have to very, very much sit in discernment, discern and learn, discern and learn and discern, earn, burn as you need to, burn and earn, and learn and discern. There's a fundamental of 4 if you need it. Learn, discern, earn, and burn. 4 of them that go together. Yeah. If you're working in what you need to while you're outside and you're just, with the Saturn and the Uranus and the Pluto thing, because the Pluto is really about the will. So it's like your decisions. What are you deciding to do? What contracts are you making? Did you as a kid when you got let outside, did you run off to go party and do nothing? Maybe that was your assignment, though. Maybe you were supposed to run off and party and do nothing. That's the thing. Is like, as long as you know that you're doing what you need to do, then Saturn probably is not going to reprimand you when you get back into the house. Probably Uranus is going to be all right with you being whoever you are as the grandkid to them. That's just what it is. Sometimes we gotta, be free. We gotta go have a little fun in the sun. Sometimes we gotta go see. We just gotta go and, let ourselves fly for a little bit. Saturn is very much about like be in the work and be in the structure and be in that. But sometimes the assignment and sometimes the homework and the lesson of Saturn is you gotta stop working every once in a while. That's been a big lesson for me recently. I've wanted to just keep going and going and going. I'm pretty Saturn ruled, even if it's indirectly in my chart. So I'm very much like go all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. And recently, Spirit, Saturn, the order, the structure, the time, they're sitting me down and they're like, "Can you rest, please? Do you want to watch some TV or read a book? Do you realize how hard you work?" That's been my message recently. Literally earlier today. You realize how hard you work? Like, yeah, you still have stuff to do, but like, can you not be so stressed? It's not just about the stress, but it's like, just sit, chill. Would you just like eat a snack? Eat a snack. Like, you're not under attack for me anymore. You're not in that position where I was anymore. So can you just like enjoy it? Please just enjoy it. Enjoy it. That's been my lesson recently. And it is at one point, let me speak that over myself. That's true. May I be elevated into a position where resting is easy for me. May I be elevated into a position in love where resting is easy for me. May I be elevated into a position where I'm able to rest and not be stressed. Thank you, Spirit. May I be elevated into a position where I'm able to rest and not be stressed and not be forced to get back up again. May I be elevated into a position where I'm able to rest and there's no battle that is confronted towards me in that vulnerability. May I be elevated into a position where I'm able to rest and be in my vulnerability and not be under attack and not have to fight back and not be stressed and not be pressed. May I be elevated. Thank you, Spirit. I love you, Spirit. I love you, the mothers. Oh, may I be elevated into a position where I don't have to get up and go to war and I can rest and be vulnerable. May I be elevated into a position where I don't have to get up and go fight and I can rest and be vulnerable and be safe. May I be elevated into a position where I can be in vulnerability, resting, safe, protected, and still be well-directed in love, truth, free, honor, glory, elevation, gratitude, reverence, and love, and justice. And I'm grateful for you, the highest spirit, and I'm grateful for you, the mother spirit, and I'm grateful for you, the father spirit, and I'm grateful for you, the spirits of love, truth, free, honor, glory, elevation, gratitude, reverence, and love. And I'm grateful for you, the indigenous spirits, where I am speaking this over myself at this time. And I'm grateful for you, the indigenous spirits, and I love you, the indigenous spirits, where the people here are witnessing me, where you are, those indigenous spirits. I give gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Thank you, those spirits. And thank you for witnessing me. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Because you know what? That was something I needed to do for myself, whether I'm on camera or not. That's another thing Spirit's been working with me recently is, yes. That's another thing Spirit's been working with me recently is like, I do a lot of work in my home. I do a lot of work in private. I do a lot of work here where other people can either see me on the internet or just, I'm either by myself or there's like maybe like a friend around or something. But recently Spirit's like, you got to get out in public. Go do your work. Go do your work. And I do stuff out in public. That's true. But every once in a while, there'll be something that I need to do. And it's like, how do I say? it's kind of this moment of like, I look around and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I have to be the crazy person then. I have to be the one that looks like they're crazy. I'm going to go and do that in this current moment. My work is a little bit different when I'm out like with the land and I'm out in public. My work looks different than maybe the work that I would do in my home. But it's still work. It's still what I've dedicated a part of my life to. It's what I've dedicated what I'm doing to. It's what it's what I'm dedicated to. So every once in a while recently Spirit has been telling me like like in support of Spirit's like, you got to get out and do your work. You got to get your hand to the land. Go and get your hand to the land. There's work you need to do. People need to see you for whatever reason that is. It just needs to be. People need to see you out in the work. Go do the work. Go get out of the house. Go do the work. So I've been, how do I say this? It's uncomfortable and at the same time I need it. I've been like in a little shell for a long time. Just in a little shell, and also here on the internet. It's like when I come out of that shell with my practice, here I am, or I'm talking to like a person one-on-one, or like in a more, like private space in person sort of thing. The road trip, non-ironically, understood. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Also concerts. I've been needing to get back to some music. That's true. That's true. Also, I'm gonna have to write that down. Rest. Understood. Yes, understood. So yeah, that's been an interesting kind of position. It is a position. I suppose that's true. Position. It's been an interesting position to be in, to be asked to kind of pick up the public work, stand up and do the work in public, or even like giving my hand to the sky when I see the vultures fly, or giving my hand to the spirits to revere them. That's one of my offerings when I'm out in public, is like, I'm gonna give my hand to you. Here you are. I'm gonna give my hand to you. If I'm working with the land, or I'm giving offering to the land, because they're two different things. I'll give my hand to the land, revere the land. That's what it is. Not every time that you're giving an offering does something need to be left behind. Sometimes things need to stay as they are, and you just need to have a transference of gratitude. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Sometimes it's that easy. Sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes it doesn't need to be all this extra performative, extra stuff. Sometimes it just needs to be a healthy thank you and gratitude. And here I am. Here I'm giving this offering, because there's a lot of power in that. Here, you can have my hand. Here, I'll support you in this. Think about all the work you do with your hands. Think about how you tie your shoes, you wash your hands, you cook your food, you pick up your cup, you drink, you drive. Well, don't drink and drive, okay? That was not solicited. They just happened to be in the... Anyways, okay. Be safe. We do a lot with our hands, so to be able to revere the spirits, sometimes I'll do that with the trees. If I need to go give gratitude to the trees, put my hand on the tree. Thank you, tree. Gratitude. And I'll stand there until I feel like it's through. And then I'll keep on moving and going as I need to. That's part of my magic. That's part of my work, Is necessary. My Viking spirits. They like to party sometimes. You know what? They do. They like to party sometimes, those Viking spirits. They like to party sometimes. Not sometimes. They're like, no. We like to party. That's what I heard. The correction of it. It's like, we don't just like to party sometimes. There's other stuff to do, sure, but like, we like to party. Maybe that's where I get it from. Actually, I think I just had a moment of clarity for myself. I was wondering, honestly, because I think it was yesterday, recently, yesterday, and recently. It's been recently and also yesterday. There's been stories about, I used to be like such a raver back in the day when I was like young. I was a young kid. I was such a raver. Not that I'm old now. I'm just like older, I was I was a raver. I was such a young kid. I was a raver out in the world. And I was a partier. I was a partier. It is what it is and what it needed to be. I was a partier. I went out to party all the time. And I'm sitting here reading that message and I'm realizing, how do I say that? Because it was a big part of my life. There's a lot of realizations I had. There's a lot of spirits I was communing with. I didn't realize that's what I didn't have the language to call it that at the time. I was still young. I didn't have a lot of like guidance in the spirit at the moment. I didn't have a lot of fundamentals, and I'd also been through a lot of hardship in my teenage years for another time, for another story, for another place. So I was also looking to like heal myself and like figure out ways that I could do better for myself and like figure out how was I able to like go through and heal my trauma and like figuring out alternative ways of health. And I got really sober several times in my young years to just make sure that I was taking care of myself. That was one of the things that my dad was really supportive of when I was coming. It was like my senior year. There's some other things that happened, but we're gonna leave them be. There was like some triggering events of like really hard things that happened. And then how do I say this? There's some triggering events. There's a couple triggering events that happened. And then it was kind of like my dad found out that I was a gardener. And he was like, listen, you can garden and I don't really care, but also like, let's think about where your mental health is at right now. And that might not exactly be the best idea. So that was kind of the seed planted. Actually, that's a good point. Thank you for that, Spirit. That was kind of like the seed planted or offered to me of like, maybe I do need to take better care of my mental health. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this all the time, So that was a good, but then I started thinking about it and I was like, maybe I can start communing with these spirits or like start these practices to like actually help myself. That was kind of like the kickoff of what I do now. There's other things that happened in my life like way prior to that, but in the succession of many years of work that I put into it. But yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty crazy to think about. But I've been thinking about those days a lot recently because that was like right before, how do I say this? Spirit, I love you. Spirit has me closing one initiation. And there's already another. It's not another. It's just like there's already other instructions. That's what I'll call them. There's already other instructions. I don't even want to call them directions. They're like instructions. I feel like I'm looking at a cookbook. It's like do this thing and then do this thing and then do this thing and then you got to put it in the oven. Did you heat the oven up? Okay, instructions. That's what I feel like I have right now. Instructions. Well, I'm closing out one initiation from many years. And when I received that calling for that initiation, I've been thinking a lot about that time period of my life. It's like 7-8 years ago. I've been thinking a lot about that time period of my life because it was, how do I explain this? It's just like full circle now. It's a full circle because I'm done. I'm in the responsibility of it now. And the like preparation process is through. So I'm thinking back to when I started the journey and like who I was. And that was like around the time of like me going out and partying and doing all that stuff. I had like started to stop. I started stopping to party. I started stopping partying or like around that time as well. It's like I got into partying and then I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this actually. Let me lift myself up and out of this. So I've just been thinking about that version of myself recently. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Gray matters. Thanks for saying that. I don't know if it's the honey that I put. Something in here is making like my throat. It's just cold. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's just cold. Interesting. Every weekend now I don't even go to bars. I understand that too. Mm-hmm. But the women's circle is interesting you bring that up because I've been feeling like I need to get the women in my life together or like not get them together, but like create a safe space for them. That's true. Let me correct myself. Create a safe space for us. That's what I've been feeling like recently. And there's been some things recently that have happened in person where I am. I'm like, it'd probably be a good idea if we had a space for women to be together, like a network of women where it's like we could call on each other if we needed it, sort of thing. Like we have how do I say this? Because I have the community space up and that's great. And I love it there. And also I feel like I need people in my area, people that I'm connected to here, sort of thing as well. So yeah, 2 different purposes, 2 different places, 2 different spaces. Yeah, it is. And I'm grateful for both of them. That's for real, for true and honest. That's real. Who was it asked? Can I explain a little bit more about spiritual initiations for Alex? What do you want to know about them? Because there's a lot of different directions of clarity. There's just a lot of, for clarity for me of where to start or how to talk about it. Like, what else do you want to know about it? Or is there clarity? Some kind of extra something. Give me another, like, I don't know what I would need, but something to help with my pronunciation and processing of that, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Are you able to talk about what you know about spiritual initiation I may be in? That is a, if you feel like you're in a spiritual initiation, generally speaking, I'm gonna talk about like any person. Sit with the spirits in your practice and talk to them. Who are you connected to? Are you connected to your ancestors? Well, then you need to go talk to them. Everybody's connected to your ancestors. So go talk to them. If you feel like you're in an initiation and you have spiritual relationships in the sense of like God, spirits, there's a lot of different names for those like beings. Make offerings to them and go talk to them if you feel like you need to. Talk to the highest spirit, talk to the mothers, talk to the mother spirit, talk to the great mother spirit, talk to the father spirit. Whoever you feel like you need to talk to, you could talk to you too. Because how do I explain that? There's certain namings that I've been through, certain like I'll call them namings. There's certain namings I've been through where like I wouldn't have been able to receive it if I didn't ask the spirits in my practice. I wouldn't have been able to receive the name that I was in the position of had I not asked the spirits in my practice. There wasn't a person that was going to be able to give it to me. There wasn't, no, it had to come from where I was sitting at the altar, where I was in my practice at the time, and where the work was with my ancestral spirits. It had to come from that space. And it wouldn't have been able to come from any other position or any other place. It had to come from them. It had to come from that space. It had to come from them. It had to. 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 And I've had multiple people through the years, multiple people. I'm able to tell when someone, and this is just part of my process, I'm able to tell when someone, because Spirit tells me, not just me looking at somebody, Spirit tells me. Spirit will let me know when someone is going through an initiation. So there's a lot of work I've done with many people throughout the years where it's like, okay, clearly you're going through some sort of initiation. Clearly that person's going through some sort of like elevation, some sort of initiation. But when it comes to namings, that's not within my authority unless, and I don't have an unless in this moment. It's not within my authority. Because it's just not within my authority. That's just what it is. That's what it needs to be, you know? It's just not within my authority. Yeah. Not within my authority. The other thing I'll say about that, though, is that within my initiation experience, I learned what I was being initiated for when I got to the end of it. When I got to the end of it, when I was nearer to the close of that specific naming or that specific gift, because there's many of them that I've been through. The one that people see me as on the internet is Mother Priestess Valkyria Vrudur. That's like what people see me as on the internet. And there's also many other, there's several other, there's positions that have been offered to me. So there's things that are like in preparation. So I didn't know what I was preparing for until I reached the conclusion. And then when I reached the conclusion, this is how my order worked for me. So discernment for you. If it works, then that works. If not, then sit with, yourself and kind of figure out the order of how your things happen for you. For me, I don't know until I reach the conclusion, because part of what happens through initiation, at least what I've experienced and the way that I was initiated as well, because initiation can happen in very different forms and fashions, and it depends on how you're ancestrally rooted, who you're ancestrally rooted to, what gods and spirits are in those ancestral practices, who are you connected to on a god spirit level within your practice. Is that also in cohesiveness with where you come from ancestrally, or is it not? And if not, then why not? And if it is, then why? And then what bigger spirits, larger spirits are also in your space? What's your purpose also within your initiations? Because everyone has a different purpose. Some people are meant to be initiated into like practices. Some people are meant to be initiated into different positions, and they're two different things. Sometimes there's positions within practices that there are initiations for. And sometimes there's initiations that you could go through where it's your own individual practice and there's still a position of authority, but it's really between you and spirit. It's not between you and the other spirits that are around, unless those other spirits are involved with the practice that you're in. So there's many different ways that could be applied and applicable. It just depends on how you ride in your life, what it is that you decide through that process, and how you make those decisions up until the conclusion. This is again how it happened for me. So discern it for yourself. How I made those decisions up until the conclusion of those initiatory periods and experiences, that determined what the name and position of authority was that I was then offered. Had I made different decisions, it could have been something different. It might have been, I don't know. I didn't walk that path though. I walked the path that I'm on. So it wasn't until the end. It wasn't until I became closer to the conclusion. And then when you get into the conclusion, things start to wrap up. Then you can bind up the responsibilities. Then you can bind up what you've been through. You can bind yourself up in the position. Am I ready to take this on? Am I ready for the responsibility? Because if you're really going through an initiation, you get to the conclusion of it. Okay, well, now you're going to walk in that responsibility for the rest of your life. And if you ever were to banish yourself from it, everything you've earned, every single thing that you have learned, every single thing that you have earned is also going to be banished from you. So if you have practiced, I haven't ever heard of anyone being able to banish themselves after getting that far into it. So once you take on the responsibility, that's like a lifetime thing. You can't put it down. And a lot of us who are born with gifts, so discern for yourself how that might work, or if it does for you. A lot of us who are born with gifts are kind of given like a natural position of like, this could be something that you want. Do you want it? Do you not want it? Are you going to work for it? Are you not going to work for it? You've inherited maybe some gifts spiritually. So what are you going to, do with it? How are you going to move in it? What are you going to connect yourself to? So it's a very, very self-proclaimed thing, while simultaneously there's so many other areas involved. So because then the other thing, let me finish that thought because I don't think I finished it. It feels like I need to finish it. When you get to the conclusion, then there needs to be the consecration. That's when you would say, yeah, I'm going to sit in this. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. I've already done all the preparation work. I've already done it. I've already become this thing. I'm going to consecrate it. And then for me, because of the way that I was initiated, those consecrations were always done. Always, not always, for the most part, were done where I am singularly for me by myself with the spirits of my practice. Not always. And we're going to let that be for now because it just needs to be where it is. But there's a lot of those different consecrations I've been through where it's like, it had to be done by me. It had to be done by me. If you practice religiously, that's different. If you're in a religion, that's different. If you're in a practice where there's structure and order and there's other people involved, that's different. That's not the way that I was raised up in the spirit, though. That's not the way that I was raised up in the spirit. And it just needed to be that way for me. It needed to be that way for where I come from. It needed to be that way for what the purpose I'm walking in is. It needed to be that way. But it's different for other people. So that might not be for you. And that's the way the spirit needs me to be on an individual level. So you do with that what you need to do with that. But that's what I got. So I hope it helps if you're wondering about it. I hope it helps if you're wondering about it. Yeah. I think, again. With the coolness, oh my goodness. I think I'm going to go. I can feel it. It feels like that was it. It feels like now I'm through. It feels like now we've grounded everything that we need to do together. So I'm going to go. Thanks for sticking with me with the technical difficulties at the beginning and getting everything figured out. I got to sit with spirit about that. Maybe I'll just keep doing this and the back and forth, but it is what it is. Thanks everybody. Thank you. Have a great night. Have a great night. I'll see you soon. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Is there anything else I need to say before we are through? I think that's really it. Just thanks. Yeah. I'm going to go keep in my brew with what I need to do. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.